Yo, what is good, everybody? It's your boy Golden Falls Golden What If, whatever you want to call me, and I'm back on the Golden Kingdom channel. I normally don't start the videos like this. I've been actually starting it with like a sneak peek type of thing, but this time wanted to start it out like this because I wanted to say I apologize for the miss of an upload. We couldn't get one out. Unfortunately, one of Mr. Crown Fiend is in the process of moving, and we are all kind of preoccupied with a bunch of stuff. So I am currently up at 4 a.m. getting a video out to y'all, because y'all the homies, and this is the kingdom, and the kingdom stay up late to handle business. Yeah, that's about it. That's all I really wanted to say. I hope y'all enjoy. This is What If Naofumi was the legendary rewind hero. Rewind. That's why Vyce is on the cover, because, you know, he can rewind. So, assumingly, I hope y'all know that this is going to be OP. But even with that said, I'm not going to waste any more of your time, and we're going to get right into the what if. Let's get it. Naofumi Iwatani was a person in his world that would make mistakes. Mistake after mistake. Everybody does such a thing, but for him, it felt as if every mistake made his world collapse around him, made everything so much worse. He felt everything. His life was falling apart, and he was only at the age of 22. How could he be ruining his life when he was so young? He just wishes he could just do it all over again. Rewind. Make everything work the way it should have. His relationships that failed. The tests he didn't pass after studying for hours. Naofumi, it was simple things for Naofumi, but it was things that would keep him up at night. He would think about the times that he failed certain tests or failed certain things, and that time that he basically missed out on part of his life because of a stupid mistake. And this led Naofumi to actually deep dive into reading. Manga, books, anything he could think of, he began reading, learning, and reading about more and more things, until he came across another book. Something about a person that would rewind time, a hero that would do such a thing to save others. But as he began to read this book, it began to glow this odd yellow color, and Naofumi was gone in an instant. He poofed from the world he once knew, the one he would make so many mistakes in, and now he was in a brand new world. A world that was far different. He looks to his left to see three people. One with a sword, one with a bow, and one with a spear. He looks at himself, and all he has is a staff. He's kind of confused by this. Why do they have such impactful weapons, but he has this? Wait, where is he anyways? Why is he even thinking about his weapon? He looks in front of him as knights begin to approach, beginning to explain that the king wants to speak with them, leading to that same conversation, the conversation that he begins to rewind in his head, that there are waves that attack this world, waves that will be stopped by them. Waves. What the hell? There's something I'm missing. He's giving us such little information. The waves are going to attack this world and we will save them? How the hell are we supposed to save them? He begins to basically play this thought in his mind over and over again. At least that's what he thought he was doing. But he was actually replaying the moment that he heard this over and over again. He stops thinking about rewinding this time, and it just goes through with ease. Naofumi is shocked to see this. He must have some power to rewind time. But how far can he truly do such a thing? He doesn't think too much about it as they head to a motel room. Head to a place, well, you could say, just is there to talk, to sleep eventually and wake up the next morning. But they speak about this world, about how similar it is to a video game. Video games they've all played, and they eventually learn that they're all from a different, world. And they all begin to speak about various things they know about worlds similar to this, in which Naofumi doesn't know too much. He's not a big gamer, but he is somewhat a gamer in terms of games that really wouldn't relate to this world, or, actually relate to the world at all. So he continues on with the conversation, learning more and more, and this leads them to the next morning, in which the king begins to explain that everybody will choose their adventurer, or at least the adventurers will choose their heroes and go with them. This leads to Naofumi getting nobody. They heard of, well, you could say, a man that doesn't know this world, the world that he's come to, and on top of that, he has a freaking staff. A staff that looks like there's a small light bulb at the end of it. It might look cool, but it definitely doesn't seem practical. In which he doesn't really care. He thinks that, well, it's just another thing for him to go through. But just as he thinks this, a girl by the name of Mine offers to join his team. But this would turn out to be horrible. Mine is someone that he doesn't want in his party, but he will find out why very soon. Mine helps him, truly helps him in terms of, well, getting some armor and other things like that. They begin to train, and Mine is showing some gratitude toward Naofumi. But all that will crumble away very soon, when that next morning after their training, Mine is gone, and she stole everything. He doesn't know this, but he's getting sent to the castle. He thinks Mine is in trouble and asks her if she's okay. And she cries rape. He is confused. What? No, I didn't do anything. They don't believe him. They say that that is punishable by death. But just as he hears this, he begins to hear that phrase in his mind over and over again. This is punishable by death. This is punishable by death. Punishable by death. No, that's ridiculous. Only if I could. Just as the thought crosses his mind, his body begins to transfer back in time. Back, all the way until the morning where Mine decided to choose to switch. Naofumi is shocked to see this and realizes that he's actually kind of drained, tired. He seems like he was able to rewind it, at least to a certain extent, but damn, it took a lot out of him. He's only a level 1, so using this power now would definitely be detrimental, so he wants to get as far as possible without having to use it, at least to the degree that he's thinking, in terms of rewinding time for himself. So, when Mine offers her allegiance, he says no. He says it's okay that she can stay with Motoyasu. She insists again, but he shakes his head, saying that it's truly okay, that he doesn't mind. He then leaves and actually leaves his money, in which the king asks him to come back for it, and he takes it and heads off, going to Erhard and gets armor just like normal, and he's surprised. He's shocked to see that, well, Naofumi was able to choose so quickly. Naofumi shrugs and says he just has a keen eye for these things, and Erhard gives the most best advice. And he is like, oh, well, no flattering me, kid. I mean, you gotta take me out to dinner first. But Naofumi kind of laughs about this and says he just wants to make sure that Erhard is on his good side when he comes back again and again. Naofumi heads off and begins training, knowing how to actually train a bit better now, trying to learn more and more about his rewind technique. But even so, the rewind technique isn't so beneficial in these circumstances. He kills more and more, but frankly, he can't figure out a way to have the rewind technique be intertwined into his weapon. Maybe when he hits something, it rewinds the thing's levels or ability to even move. He's still not so sure about how to do it, but he's slowly but surely learning how to use this technique. He is now at a level of about 6 as he completes the day. He begins to head out as bandits begin to approach him, saying that, well, he's going to get robbed and that they're going to take all his stuff. Naofumi, not really taking this lightly, he actually just defeats them with relative ease. These bandits, they aren't very good. Well, whatever. Naofumi beats them down and throws them into prison, but as he basically is taking them away, you could say someone approaches him with an odd request of some sorts, asking Naofumi to follow him, that he wants to show him something very beneficial. Naofumi decides he will follow, and if anything goes wrong, he'll just rewind himself back out. But when he arrives in a slave market. This slave market is filled to the brim with monsters, demi-humans, and various other things. And Naofumi begins to say that he doesn't want anything to do with it, but just as he begins to say this, he sees someone. He sees a little girl by the name of Raphtalia, saying that he will take her, and that's it. And he decides to buy her, and actually does put the slave crest upon her, thinking that, and telling her that they can get it off of her if she so chooses in the future. Naofumi then begins to train the small girl, getting her a weapon, armor, various other things, and begins to explain that his power is currently limited, and that he needs the help, and he basically begs her to help him out. Now, Raphtalia says that there's no reason to beg, that honestly Naofumi is probably the nicest person she's actually talked to in a very long time. Naofumi begins to get her over her sickness, but on top of that, get her over some of various other fears. And this then leads to some beneficial training and some leveling up, finally. Naofumi leveling up at a more consistent rate, and so is Raphtalia. Every time Raphtalia gets hurt, he actually just bops her on the head with his staff, and it seems to heal her, quote unquote. It's actually not the case. It rewinds her injuries, but keeps her level stagnant. This is something Naofumi wasn't sure about. Level stagnant, but even though he rewinds, their levels stay the same. He's shocked to this realization actually puts him overhead. He can rewind himself with Raphtalia, and they can go back in time and continue to train, get stronger. So that's what he does. For let's say the next 3 days, he just rewinds the day every single time. Let's be honest, he gets pretty exhausted by doing this, but it is extremely beneficial. He chimes in Raphtalia with this obviously before doing it, but Raphtalia is fine with it. The 3 days of crazy leveling up have gotten them to extreme heights. And on top of that, Raphtalia is actually matured into a young adult. But the only thing is, they're kind of running low on money, food, stuff like that. Rewinding time like that is a little iffy, especially when you're kind of still dealing with food. There's a lot of gray areas in terms of rewind that Naofumi has, in terms of his ultimate powers. So he decides that he needs to make some money. How's he going to do that? Well, he's going to talk to Erhard. He talks to Erhard and gets some information of some sorts, learning about Loot Village. He heads to Loot Village and speaks with the people there, learning of a cave with some pretty decent minerals. He goes to that said cave, mines some up, but really, he doesn't really have that much fun doing so. He's actually enjoying leveling, and this will actually be beneficial when a two-headed dog approaches both of them. Raphtalia kind of flinches and is kind of scared, but Naofumi taps her on the shoulder, saying that it's okay, that they can beat it, and this is the reason why they've been training. And Raphtalia, revitalized, happy once again, attacks the monster, and defeats it. Raphtalia defeats the two-headed dog monster with relative ease, and she didn't really break much of a sweat. She's pretty strong at this point, not so overpowered, but in terms of technique and flawlessness, she's able to basically tactically defeat the monster on her own, and obviously with a little bit of help from Naofumi. But with all that said and done, it's cleaned up. Naofumi goes, sells the gems, gets some money, and for the next month, they train, level up. And Naofumi decides that he will basically use his rewind sparingly. He doesn't want to overexert himself, so every time he feels fully recovered, he'll use the rewind technique that they did for a couple days. So instead of a month, you could argue he gets at least an extra 3 weeks. So we're talking a month with extra 3 weeks. That is a lot of leveling up. Yes, it would plateau a bit. Naofumi would get slightly less XP because of the fact that they're not fighting insanely high level monsters. Raphtalia, on the other hand, would find really good results. The fact that she is actually at a point that she's extremely strong, level 30 at this point, and Naofumi is at a level of 45, bridging on the levels of 46 and 47. He actually can level up extremely fast with the techniques he's been using. And now that he's a higher level, his rewind doesn't take as much out of him, and there's various other things he can use. Not only with the whole healing or the rewind to heal aspect, but he can also, depending on the level of the monster, rewind them into nothingness. He finds this to be very interesting and a very good way of going about things. If he just gets over leveled, he'll be able to destroy anything in an instant. But obviously that is not the most relevant way of going about things. It's not that easy most of the time. You can't just say, hey, I want to be level 100 and just boop someone out of existence. So at least for now, Naofumi doesn't have the capabilities of doing such a thing. But with all that said, Raphtalia and Naofumi head to the Dragon Hourglass. They do this to check on how much time they have before the wave, and basically add 3 days to that. Because Naofumi, if he so chooses and feels that they need more time, he can just rewind, gather more supplies, keep them within his gem on his staff, and continue to do this until they're completely ready. In which Naofumi doesn't really feel a need to do so, but he actually does go and check the hourglass with Raphtalia. When he arrives though, the other 3 heroes are there as well, in which they say what's up to him more or less, being kinda cold and off-putting, but Motoyasu approaches Raphtalia, telling her that if she joins him, that, well, she won't have to even use that sword right there. But Raphtalia says she likes the sword. Does he not like the sword? Raphtalia looks at Naofumi and basically asks why this person is being so mean to her sword. And Naofumi kind of laughs at this and looks at Motoyasu, saying that, well, Raphtalia really likes that sword, and she actually really likes fighting as well. She's seemed to actually catch a good love for it. Motoyasu is shocked that Naofumi would allow such a pretty woman to fight for him. And Naofumi just says, did you not just hear what I said? He's confused, and so is Raphtalia, thinking that this guy is actually an idiot. And he kinda is. But they do end up leaving, thinking that there's nothing much more for them to do here. So they head off and begin heading and getting ready for the next wave. Actually setting up at Loot Village, believing that would be a good spot to start, and if they need to fight the main boss, they can fight the main boss. It shouldn't be too hard. When they arrive at Loot Village, Naofumi begins to basically observe as the wave begins, and he points into the sky and senses everything coming, all of these monsters. But what he realizes is all of them are actually a lower level than him. He asks Raphtalia if he basically has permission to try something out. He knows that she wants to basically try out her new sword, but frankly he wants to test some power out. And she says that's totally fine, as he swings his staff and immediately destroys and kills, vaporizing half of the monsters that are there. Raphtalia is pretty shocked to see this, and Naofumi and her gain a couple levels of experience because of it, or a couple levels in their leveling system because of it. Raphtalia then begins to slice through hornets, skeletons, all the like, defending the village with relative ease, eventually leading to the wave finishing up. The wave was extremely easy. Frankly, Naofumi and his powers, as he's getting used to them, are finding brand new ways of being creative, and not only that, being pretty strong. And luckily, Naofumi was able to basically secure everything. Anything that really got destroyed, he just rewinded and fixed it all. In which all the people there are super happy that he was able to do, because it basically took days, if not weeks, off of basically getting the village back up into order, just for probably it to get destroyed again with the next wave. Naofumi says it's really no problem, and if they need anything else, he can probably help them out depending on how far back it occurred. And Naofumi and Raphtalia basically celebrate with Loot Village for a bit until they're more or less called in to the Royal Kingdom. They're called in because they're actually invited to a state dinner. Naofumi arrives and they begin to try everything. Naofumi loves his pastries, loves his food, anything he can get his hands on. He loves special foods, especially because he was never really rich back in his own world, and he never got to try these really foods that, in terms of like when they're delicacies, he's never really got to try anything too fancy. And let's just say he has a very similar personality to our good friend Vyce. So he loves this type of food. In terms of his smarts, I mean, he's not so Vyce-like, but in terms of the food, he likes the food a lot, just like him. So he begins to eat with Raphtalia, and they just enjoy the food, all like just together, just having a good time. And during this, well, let's say Motoyasu approaches Naofumi, throwing a glove on the ground. He says that he challenges Naofumi to a duel. A duel? That sounds like we're like literally in the 1800s. A duel? Motoyasu tells him not to mock him, and that he challenges him to a duel for the freedom of Raphtalia. And Raphtalia says that she's not here by force, in which Motoyasu is confused. She has a slave crest on, and Raphtalia says that, like she just said, not here by force, that she's actually here because she wants to be here. They can actually get the slave crest off, and she'd probably just get it back on. Gives her a boost in strength. And, well, Motoyasu is very confused. But still, he still is firm on his stance, and people actually do take Raphtalia away. Naofumi points his staff toward the people that are muzzling her and tells them that she won't interfere. Let her go as she is, or else. He's very, very frustrated because he's been playing nice since the very beginning, and the fact that they want to hurt, well, Raphtalia for no reason, muzzle her, make her not speak, just because what, she's a demi-human? Now that's a problem. The knights say that they won't do such a thing, but just as they say this, Naofumi bops them on the head and they disappear from existence. Everybody is shocked to see this, and he says that he'll bring them back right now, but he needs to you guys all need to make sure that she is not muzzled ever again. He takes off the muzzle and brings them back. And frankly, everybody is shocked, and the knight doesn't even know what happened. And they all explain what happened, and they promise to not muzzle Raphtalia as long as he does the duel. Naofumi says he will. He doesn't mind, and that's exactly what's going to occur. The duel between Motoyasu and Naofumi is about to begin. The duel is sort of epic, I guess you could say that, but frankly, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to that rewind technique, and him being the legendary rewind hero. The fact that this whole fight will all be telegraphed. Every single time, every move Naofumi sees from Motoyasu will all be telegraphed. He waits about 5-6 moves in. Now he knows exactly what Motoyasu is going to do. Rewind back. He does the same thing over and over again until he knows every single step Motoyasu will do before Motoyasu will even think it. So, the whole fight is Naofumi dodging with ease, getting openings, and striking down Motoyasu as if it was child's play. The other heroes, Ren and Itsuki, are shocked to see this, thinking that Naofumi must be just extremely more powerful than him and way stronger. But that's not even the case. He's just using his abilities to his advantage. And this, let's just say, is a massive advantage. Naofumi strikes at Motoyasu and pile drives him with his staff into the ground, telling him to yield and that it's over. But Motoyasu does not listen, still trying to hit him, dodging it with ease. Naofumi taps him with his rewind staff, and it actually rewinds his levels by a whole 10 levels. Motoyasu, now basically a fraction of his power, has nothing he can do and is swiftly knocked out. While this occurs, he puts his staff on the ground and tells Motoyasu that he needs to yield. Motoyasu, being that he's practically knocked out, kind of murmurs and just goes, "I yield." So he taps him on the head, rewinding Motoyasu back and healing him up completely. In which Mine shouts that Motoyasu can still fight, but everybody heard him say that he yielded. And Naofumi even brings this up, telling her to not be a snake and stop trying to put him in more danger than needs to be. Motoyasu stands and looks toward Mine, and he still struggles to get up. The rewind technique, yes, it does heal them, but especially being outside of his party, it does put a fatigue upon Motoyasu. And maybe this is for added effect, maybe this is just a restriction. Naofumi won't be revealing that anytime soon, at least not to them. But the fight is over. The fight is won, and frankly, it was as if a teacher was literally teaching a student how to fight. It wasn't even close, like it was sensei versus a white belt. It felt as if there was just no class in the universe that Naofumi wasn't above compared to Motoyasu. The fight is over, and the fight is won, and Raphtalia is set free to Naofumi once again. Naofumi explains that Raphtalia has a choice to get the slave crest off. He's offered, she said no. Slaves in this world give them a boost. It's like they're monsters. It gives them an added effect that ups their base stats. That's the only reason why Raphtalia keeps the slave crest on her. He doesn't even make commands. He allows Raphtalia to do anything on her own accord. And all of them are kind of shocked. The nobleman, the king, everybody up there is shocked. Mine doesn't believe it though. Same thing with Motoyasu, and the other heroes, they kind of do believe it. It kind of does make sense based on the way she's acting. In which Naofumi just shrugs, saying that they don't need to believe anything and that he needs to head off, that he has a lot to do. Now the real question is, how will he use his rewind in the future? What will be in the path for Naofumi leading up to the basically major battles that are soon to come? Well, you'll have to find out on another part. There's going to be 3 parts, and this is just part 1. So if you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, sub, comment down below. Leave any suggestions below in the comment section. And this is the Golden Kingdom, and you should hit that sub button because we are almost at 1,000 subs. So I hope when this comes out, right after, I want y'all just to slam the like button, slam the sub button, because once we hit 1,000 subs, we have some bangers on the way, and that is a promise. So I hope y'all enjoyed, and I hope y'all have an amazing day. Later.